Welcome to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Travers Mackel. Election Day in New Orleans is now less than 1 month away on October 14th. Tonight, we continue our City Council district debates. All 5 candidates seeking that office are here tonight and are ready to discuss these issues. The district is made up of New Orleans East, the Lower 9th Ward, Lake Catherine, Venetian Isles, and Irish Bayou. The seat is currently held by James Gray. He's seeking re-election. A Democrat, Gray was first elected in 2012 in a special election. He was then re-elected in 2014. He's the husband of juvenile court judge Ernestine Gray and the father of former state senator Cheryl Gray. His challengers, Alicia Plummer-Clivens, Cedric Fatheroth, Dawn Hebert, and Cindy Wynn. We thank you all for being here. We are going to begin with a brief 30-second opening statement. Mr. Gray, since you're the incumbent, you have 30 seconds to make an opening remark.
Well, thank you very much. I am James Gray, a public school product. Went to Morehouse College, spent 3 years in the United States Marine Corps. I was an infantry platoon commander in Vietnam, went to Harvard Law School, came and taught at LSU Law School, came to New Orleans. A little over 40 years ago. I've been here since practicing law up until the time I was elected in 2012. I should say that in addition to being the husband of Ernestine Gray and the father of Cheryl Gray, the senator, I'm also the father of James Gray, the engineer and lawyer. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Watch Ms. Plummer-Clivens. Let's continue with you for 30 seconds opening remark.
Okay. I'm Alicia Plummer-Clivens, number 77 on the ballot. I've been a long-time resident of New Orleans East. Economic equality of the city's budget and resources is the platform of which I will be standing strongly for. I've been a long-time advocate to bring businesses, help out seniors, and also for our children in the district. And I want to be the one to be able to do that as a strong leader for New Orleans East and Lower 9.
Mr. Fatheroth, 30 seconds, same thing, opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Cedric Fatheroth, and I'm a candidate for City Council District E. My number is number 78. I grew up in the Desire Housing Project. I was raised in the Lower 9th Ward. The former Carver High School football player that lost his leg during a football injury. I just come up in life just striving to, do great things in our district. As far as a coach at Carver High School,
Thank you very much. Ms. Hebert, you have 30 seconds also to make an opening statement.
My name is Dawn Hebert, and I'm number 80 on the ballot. I am running in this race because I'm interested in getting economic development and the share of the I'm running because I feel that we have been forgotten as far as economic development and its share of city services. I will continue to work with the community and getting us treated equitably. Also, I feel that in doing this,
we'll get back. We'll have plenty of questions to get to.
Just a little...
No, that's okay. Ms. Wynn, you have 30 seconds to make an opening statement.
Good evening, Travis. My name is Cindy Wynn, candidate for City Council in District E. My ballot number is 81. With over 16 years of building communities and engaging in civic activity, I believe I have the skills, the talents to effectively serve the people in District E, which includes the Lower 9, Eastern New Orleans, Lake Catherine, and Venetian Isles. With a very diverse background in economic development, in youth development, in serving working families, I have a proven record of getting things done, and that's why I'm running for City Council in District E. Thank you.
We started down there. We're going to start down here with this question with you, Ms. Wynn. Are you for or against the idea that New Orleans East, should secede from the city of New Orleans? You have 1 minute to answer that question.
I believe that if we would just elect the right leaders, effective leaders from the mayor, city council at large, Division 1 and Division 2, and of course the city council in District E, that we do not have to secede from the city of New Orleans. We are a large geographic location, but electing the right leaders to make the right decision that will impact District E, there will be no need to secede from the city of New Orleans at all.
Ms. Hebert, it's a hot topic, same question. Are you for or against the idea that New Orleans East should secede from the city of of New Orleans. Like Ms. Nguyen, you have 1 minute.
I am against that. I do not believe we presently have the funding to fund succeeding from the union, from the city. But I do believe with the correct person in office who can actively get the economic development for the city and our share of the services, that we could definitely become a better community. We could have the economic development and the jobs that we so desperately need in the community.
Mr. Gray, same question, 1 minute. Do you support or are you against a secession? And can you explain your answer?
I'm against it. I think it's a proposition put forward by people who are not looking at the facts. As a matter of fact, particularly when it became a big topic a couple of years ago, I made an effort to go look at what our tax revenues were in the district. At that point, we were under 10% of the city's revenues. Not the 40% that the advocates for that say. As a matter of fact, none of it made much sense. It wasn't well thought out. I think the city of New Orleans is booming. I think New Orleans East is booming right now and will continue to boom. And I think we are better off as part of the city of New Orleans.
Mr. Favorite, same question, 1 minute. Are you for or against it? And could you please explain your answer?
Right now, I'm actually against it right now because once you look at the numbers with the revenue that is being brought in by District E, it's not enough to sustain the police department and the fire department as our own city. Later on in the future, I might be for it, but as of now, I'm totally against it right now.
And Ms. Plummer-Clivens, it's a big topic. It made a lot of headlines this summer. Are you for or against it? In 1 minute, could you explain your answer?
Well, I'm one of the people who did the research on it. It's funny to me how people can step up and say what they think it is and they didn't do the research. The majority of the cities that left municipalities, they've done well. Now, that's ultimately going to be the decision of the voters. If they get the numbers for the petition, the voters are going to have to decide that. But the reason why I am running is because no one is there to get our slice of the pie that New Orleans East and the Lower Ninth Ward deserves. And that is why the impetus for the research for succession was done.
We're going to start this question with you, Ms. Plummer-Clivens. In 1 minute, what is your plan for the old Six Flags site in New Orleans East?
Well, we need to reach out. Well, first off, it should have been a couple of things. We worked with the New Orleans East Business Association with a studio to come, just like Universal Studios. We should have had the outlet malls instead of it going downtown to the river for tourists. That's a prime place for outlet mall, for attractions, for hotels, for restaurants. That's something I would be looking forward to. And also Bass Pro.
Let's hope so. Mr. Favorite, in 1 minute, same question. It's a big piece of property out there in New Orleans East. Some call it an eyesore. If elected, what is your plan for the Six Flags site?
My plan is to actually talk to developers to actually get that site developed, keeping some of the rides that are currently there, to make that out of more, let's say, homes for if you want to travel, to keep that property there in existence.
Mr. Gray, same thing. 1 minute. What is your plan? You've been in office, obviously. It's been a big topic out there in New Orleans East. What to do with that piece of property?
And we have been working hard on a solution to that, and we will continue to work hard. The truth of the matter is we've talked to numerous developers. We've gotten numerous plans, and right now we are studying several plans and are very likely to select one of those plans as the lead in developing Six Flags. But we shouldn't talk in terms of what is my plan or someone else's plan, because the truth of the matter is with all development, we have to convince private developers who are going to put up the money, maybe with some incentives that we give them, and we are willing to offer a lot of incentives for Six Flags, but we have to find a private developer who's willing to put up the money to make a development. We can dream about whatever we like, but we have some real possibilities in hand. I think we are very likely to get to the end of it very soon, and I think the city of New Orleans will be happy with the solution.
Ms. Hebert, same question. Your plan, if elected, for the Six Flags site?
If elected, I believe I would like to place something recreational, because we need something for the youth and the families to do in the community. Unfortunately, it's been this long and the place is blighted, as you said. And also, we know that it's in the hands of the mayor or the city right now, so we would have a say into what is happening. But I would also like to include the community to see what they would like to have placed in that particular location. And hopefully within a year, a developer would come forth with plans that we can deal with, and something will begin construction on that spot.
And Ms. Nguyen, just like your opponent, same question. Your view, your goal, if elected, for the Six Flags site?
So I actually live next door to the property, Travis, and it's an eyesore. It's a shame that that property have sat 12 years untouched and haven't done anything. We have 3 strong developers that has proposed plans to revitalize the former Six Flags as a water park, theme park, dining, shopping, music, amphitheater, hotel, and I think those are very viable options that the Six Flags property can handle. One of the things is that we got to make sure that we open and embrace innovative economic development that really is going to focus on family-oriented, and that we got to make sure that this project is where people from out of state, the only way they're going to get to come to the east, and that's why we got to make sure that the idea of this project is that that theme park needs to be very unique for New Orleans, that in order to get that New Orleans style, they got to come to the east, and that's how we're going to attract the people to come to the area.
We're going to start this question with you. It's safe to say crime is the #1 issue affecting this community right now, and District E is not immune to that, unfortunately. Ms. Nguyen, if you're elected, how do you work to improve response times in New Orleans East and the lower 9th Ward? You have 1 minute for that question.
Part of my work for the past 16 years, I've been in nonprofit, and what we do is we develop programs that are innovative using best practice. And what I like to bring to the police department is a concept of using some of the position that we don't have to use police officer, where we could actually hire a labor person to actually respond to the cause, and that way we can help decrease it. But I definitely want to work closely with the chief to make sure that they have the tools to track and be able to respond, and even if we have to hire additional officer, but we have to look at how we're looking at recruitment, because I know recruitment is an issue in reference to meeting the number of officers. But those are all on the plate, but we have to have an open dialogue discussion and be very frank and honest in reference to what is the problem with the response time, and make sure that we get to a solid solution to make sure that the people are getting the response that they need.
Ms. Hebert, a similar question dealing with crime. If elected, how do you improve community policing in District E?
Community policing will be, actually, that is something that is needed right now. We need the police out in the community. They need to see the policemen. And we also have a group called the Police Community Advisory Board, which works along with the police in making suggestions and working with the police captain. This is something that I've heard from the police, that they do need this. They do need community input. And as far as the shorter times that we were just speaking about, they are hoping that they get additional assistance from the Louisiana Sheriff. And unfortunately, the morale is bad right now because the police have been mandatory. They have been made to work 6 days a week, which is really, they're working 6 days a week in a stressful position, and it would eventually run them down. And I'm hoping that that particular practice is changed, that it is either voluntary overtime assignment as opposed to mandatory.
Mr. Gray, if re-elected, how can you work with the administration and the police to better recruit and retain officers? You have 1 minute for that question.
Well, first of all, just so that everyone knows the facts, we have for the last 3 years put as much money in the budget as we can possibly spend on the police. The problem is we haven't been able to recruit enough. We, while trying to recruit as many as we could, we have a net gain, I think, of about 8 over the last 3 years. We've recruited a fair number, we've trained a fair number, but we've lost a fair number. Now, to deal with that, one of the things is we've given a 15% raise, we've given another 10% raise, which really amounts to 11.5. Since it's on top of the 15. So our policemen are now have about a 26, will have in January, a 26% raise, which makes them the best paid police force around other than the state police. That's one thing to try to deal with retention. We are changing categories and job titles designed to make it more attractive so that policemen will stay. Our big task is to recruit policemen and to keep them there. The truth of the matter is recruitment is a problem all over the country. It's not just our problem.
Right. Mr. Favreau, if elected, do you think the homicide division is solving enough cases? And is there anything you can do if elected to help that department inside the NOPD solve more cases?
First of all, we need more police officers on the street, firstly. With the homicide numbers, we're not solving enough crime the way that we should. One of the short-term solutions that I plan on proposing is actually bringing having a consolidated police effort with the Sheriff's Department, Hanover Police, the Levee Board, and Harbor Police. We need a consolidated effort where those police officers can actually answer calls for service. We have cars riding in our district and they're not responding to any calls for service. If we can get those officers back on the street, answering calls for service, we will have enough officers to actually put in the homicide division. We need to actually look at getting those officers on the street and sitting down talking to the sheriff as far as how we can make it work. Because if we can actually make it work with putting the Sheriff's Department, Harbor, putting those officers, have them answering calls for service, we can actually put more manpower into the homicide unit.
Thank you very much, Ms. Plummer-Clivens. If elected, do you feel that police officers make enough money? I know Mr. Gray touched on this, or is a pay raise needed to recruit more officers?
Well, first, let me attack the subject about crime. Until we attack and until we give our young kids, our children and their parents, quality academic education, VOTEC education, and economic opportunities, we will continue to have a problem with our crime issue. But when it comes to, the situation that you're asking me about
pay for police officers.
Right. I think that the police officers should get paid, even the old ones. The new ones, it should be bumped up. They should have education incentives to go back to school. They should have housing incentives to bring them back into the communities. And I mean the old ones too. And we need to try to recruit the old ones back onto the force, the seasoned police officers back onto the force. And we also need to do with the budget that we have for the police, we need to use some of that money for social programs, for your officer friendlies, for the cops and kids education, not education, but athletic programs and stuff.
We're going to speed up some of the answers here. 30 seconds, and we're going to start with you, Ms. Plummer-Clivens. Flooding, sewage and water board, a big topic. Is District E, New Orleans East, the lower 9th Ward, properly protected against flooding?
Well, we thought we were until about 2 weeks ago when our LIP, Haynes and Sheffman Tour, our big corridors, Bullard, Reed, and Crowder flooded. We thought we were. And the problem is that you have the Sewage and Water Board fiasco. You have people that's sitting on that Public Works Board, a commission, that's not doing their job. It needs to be a total overhaul. And also Sewage and Water Board needs to come back under the city.
Mr. Favaroth, a similar question. Do residents have enough information about pumps in sewage in District E? And if elected, what can you do to bring that to light?
No, residents.
In 30 seconds, too.
Oh, no, residents do not have enough information. As a resident of New Orleans East, I assume that it was hurricane season and all the pumps were new from the Corps of Engineers. We assume that those pumps were working, that we didn't have any issues with these pumps at all. To have the pumps not work is a shame. And the citizens did not know that the pumps were not working because we were not informed by the city.
Mr. Gray, in 30 seconds, do council members need to be put back on the Sewage and Water Board?
Yes. Yes, they were taken off before I got there. I think we all agreed that they should be put back on. But everyone should know that District E is probably the safest part of the city for flooding because of our landscape, our big canals, our ponds that can hold water. It is the safest place anywhere in the city. Now, the flooding, the street flooding we had the other day, there was 5.82 inches of rain in 1 hour. There is no place in the world where you get that much rain in 1 hour, you're not going to have street flooding.
Ms. Aber, dealing with the Sewage and Water Board, was the mayor right to clean house at the Sewage and Water Board after that flood on August 5th?
Yes,
you have 30 seconds.
He definitely was, because there was no accountability from the staff and from the board. He's running the, supposedly running Sewage and Water Board, so it was obvious that nothing was being done, nothing was being monitored. Unfortunately, it definitely came out that they do not have trained individuals to operate and maintain these sewage lines, the pumps. So it was definitely something that he needed to do. hopefully they will replace them with qualified individuals.
And Ms. Wynn, finally, we'll wrap up this question with you. There is a third-party team basically running the Sewage and Water Board right now after all of the dismissals. Is that a good thing for the city or a bad thing? You have 30 seconds.
I guess in the interim, we needed to have an immediate resolution to make sure that the pumps are working. And so at this point, not knowing all the details about the third-party company, this is the best solution for us moving forward as elected. I want to make sure that we have the right people in place, that we hire the right executive director that has experience in managing the drainage system, and that that his team is experienced in that area as well.
All right, we thank you for your time, but we are unfortunately out of time. Cindy Wynn, Dawn Hebert, James Gray, Cedric Fatherov, and Alicia Plummer-Clivens. Election Day is the 14th. Next up, next week, is the at-large District 1 race. Until then, this is The Hot Seat. I'm Travers Mackel. Let's send it back to you.